All right, everyone. Welcome back to another Voltage Spaces. Today, we're really excited to talk to the team at TrueBit about what they're building and what they're trying to get done as far as the Bitcoin system and bringing value to Bitcoin, the Bitcoin ecosystem. So, welcome, guys.
We appreciate it.
Thanks
Glad to
for
be
having
here.
us.
Thanks for having us.
Cool. So I got four of you guys here today, so this is really fun. Can we just like go around, I guess, and Steven, you could start and just kind of like tell us what you do at TrueBit, and then we'll get into what TrueBit is.
Yeah, of course. So Stephen here, co-founder of TrueBit, basically heading up product development and kind of the design side of things. Obviously, still doing the wearing of all hats at this stage of the startup. We're pitching, brands. About finished our raise, but mostly focusing on the product build and a lot of the sales and branding effort.
Awesome. You've got Ian here. I look after a lot of our business development that we're currently doing. I also make a variety of Bitcoin-related tutorials as a side hobby, so kind of a much less cool version of BTC Sessions. So it's exciting to be doing Bitcoin all the time, as it were. Asteria, Lyndon, you guys want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, we're part of Valera. We're just working to help consult on the development work right now. I'm mostly on the back end, front end. Stereo is mostly consulting on the Lightning end.
Yeah,
Awesome.
mostly Lightning, Lightning and infrastructure here.
All right, cool. All right, back to the fun question here. Now we got everyone sort of introed. What is TrueBit? What's the story?
Yeah, so maybe I can start with the kind of big picture. So I mean, our goal at a high level is to get the hundreds of billion-dollar per year loyalty economy onto a Bitcoin standard. And so that, a couple $100 billion a year, this is like all the economic value of things like loyalty points, loyalty rewards that brands all over the world, issue to their customers. And so bringing that to a Bitcoin standard, we think not only helps accelerate Bitcoin, of course, but also makes a great deal of sense when you think about some of the different properties of an open, network protocol like the Lightning Network, which we'll certainly get into a lot more. And so, we make it really easy for any brand, big or small, to deliver Bitcoin rewards to their customers as sort of an extension of an existing kind of loyalty scheme or program. And when we say Bitcoin rewards, it's important because there's kind of two main categories which we can get into with perhaps some examples, but maybe just like some quick commentary on like how we got here, which I think is also important. We became pretty enamored by products like Fold and just this idea of being able to stack sats for something that you're anyways already doing, right? Like maybe you don't have a bunch of dry powder ready to stack the latest dip, or maybe with today's inflationary conditions, like you no longer have budget for a DCA, even a modest one. But that's okay, because unless you're living in a cave, like you can still stack sats by making everyday transactions through something like Fold. Obviously, there's been a proliferation of credit and debit products that we've seen over the last really couple of years. And then you also have more kind of affiliate models like Lolly. So like all of these are really interesting. And so we asked ourselves, like, are there other domains in our lives where that same dynamic can perhaps apply? And that, is where we landed on this kind of loyalty economy. So if we can give individuals, yet another way to stack sats, that's awesome. And existing plebs will hopefully appreciate that. But then when you also think about people who have yet to be orange pilled, yet to get their first sats, I actually think there's like a pretty similar argument to why you'll sometimes hear proponents of like something like stable coins on Lightning, which we can get into as part of today. This idea of like being able to issue fungible tokens like stable coins via Taro, like that may sound crazy to some certain hardcore Bitcoiners, but there's an argument that like this is a very meaningful gateway for people to be introduced to the network. I mean, we merely need to look at the market cap of the likes of Tether and USDC, and Like the market is clearly spoken. There's a lot of value in that. And so in a very similar way, this huge economy of loyalty assets can be a similar vector through which people kind of stumble their way into the Lightning Network. And then on the flip side of that, you also have brands, right? And we've chatted with a lot of brands, and like if you were to rank order like the different ways in which they might engage with Bitcoin, frankly, accepting Bitcoin as payment is probably pretty low on that list. And that's not to take away from something like what Strike and Jack Mallers are doing. This idea of making Lightning payment rails sort of interoperable, with kind of fiat, like that's very, very interesting. But beyond that, this becomes yet another compelling way for brands to kind of dip their toes in, i.e., offering Bitcoin as a reward, where we take care of all the messiness. So I know that was kind of a mouthful, but hopefully that gives a good kind of big picture. I don't know, Steve, if you want to add anything to that.
No, I would probably just say, the kind of two core options that we offer brands is simply Sats back instead of your typical discounts or cash back or just straight up loyalty points. Good example is just hey, get $5 back in Sats for spending say $100 during a given time frame, or incentivizing the consumer to take some desired action. And then as Ian mentioned, the next part could be driving incremental revenue, or again placing their loyalty program on a Bitcoin standard by offering these Bitcoin secured digital assets via Taro RGB. And an example of that could just be, like a premium hotel offers its top guests, say, an annual spa pass or something, which has high value to it. The spa asset could then, live and be traded as a non-fungible asset via TAR and RGB. And, as that asset gets traded, then the brand would, be able to take some type of royalty from those kind of secondary market sales. So it has a new revenue stream. And then you have, all the attractiveness, quote unquote, that these other chains, all claim fame to, that, you can now do over Lightning, for lack of better words. But that's basically what TRUBIT offers to brands with little to no technical integration, so they can just get up and running in a matter of minutes.
Wow, that was amazing. That actually sounds really, really cool to me. So it's kind of like, for example, like Marriott has Marriott points, like they would have some sort of TrueBit account or something, or how would they get involved? Just as an example.
Yeah, so they would come to TrueBit platform, sign up really easily. You could go in, and then essentially what we're trying to really accomplish is giving the brand kind of ownership over the customer relationship and experience. Still, they come out with a lot of different offerings. As you said, we love Fold, we love Lolly, but they're not really playing within kind of the brand's existing loyalty scheme and relationships channels, if you will. So brand could come in, sign up for TrueBit, go through, we have this very simple dashboard that you can go in and create essentially what's a campaign. And you could say, I want to incentivize, any customer, for example, to go and try to spend, say, $100 during the next 2 weeks. I make this campaign page. I put in some, specifics about what the title is, some artwork, if you will, and what the reward would be. Maybe it's, 10,000 sats if you meet that certain, metric. And then we spit out this nice, clean landing page, simple URL that's branded for the brand, and they can go and then just essentially paste that into their means of communication, whatever channel that is. It could be email, SMS, their site, whatever. And the call to action is just to go and click like, hey, if you've gone and spent $100, here's the email that comes from, performing that desired action. All the user has to do is to enter in their email, and they get their sats right in their TrueBit wallet. And it's simple as that. We don't want to have to put any more barriers or kind of friction at this stage between a brand just coming on and saying, hey, I want to offer Bitcoin as a reward to my customers, and for customers to be able to say, hey, I want to be able to claim Bitcoin as a reward without the need of having to download an app, back up your seed phrase, all that good stuff. We can get into the details of how we're going to streamline all that. But as of right now, we think winning on the kind of consumer experience, and getting people onboarded as quickly as possible to get their first sats is key to scale quickly.
And with the idea of Taro, you guys could essentially, could you guys essentially just sort of be like a interface on top of Taro that these businesses sort of connect to? So they could still call it Marriott points, but it could still be like a Satoshi per point or something. Is that right?
Exactly. That's how we kind of foresee it. And I'll
Like
say
long term, yeah.
Yeah, for technical details of that are a little little fuzzier as of right
We
now.
don't even
But
have an
yeah,
alpha to play with yet, for sure.
yeah.
It's also potentially important just to even address like the why. Like, okay, great, you have these two categories of quote unquote rewards, one being the very simple kind of stats back idea, but then you have the second category of digital assets. Like, what there are some listening to this who may say like, well, why is that even important or valuable in the first place? I know there's a lot of discourse within the Bitcoin community around the merits of things like digital assets that are not the Bitcoin token, but a big reason of why that came about is just through our conversations with brands. Like, we sit down with different brands, and as you can imagine, there's certainly like an education process to all of this, and we'll typically start with like, hey, we're enabling you as a capability to deliver Bitcoin to your customers, and there's definitely a number of them who would prefer that over the crappy loyalty points that you're currently giving out. But then immediately they'll start to say, oh yeah, the Bitcoin thing. What about like the metaverse? Like, what about like NFT? Right? So they'll kind of start to go to all these other things that they've heard about. And so really, this is very much a response from the market that like you could have all sorts of debates and discussion around the merits of different types of digital assets that are not BTC the token, but this is being very much driven by brands, interestingly enough. And one really interesting case study of that is Starbucks recently announced what they call their Odyssey program, and this is their kind of like quote unquote Web3 extension of their Starbucks rewards program. And Starbucks for many, many years now has been the absolute benchmark when it comes to customer loyalty. And so for them to kind of announce this major, major significant, I mean, we could get into the details if it's interesting. I doubt it is as interesting to, the audience listening to this particular discussion, but, an entity like that does not like besmirch its crown jewel with an initiative like this, unless it has kind of spent some really, really serious time, energy, money, sort of thinking about it. So it's while it remains to be seen exactly how these digital assets are going to be used in kind of a brand context, I think Starbucks is already starting to kind of answer some of that, with its Odyssey program that it just recently announced.
Right. That sounds awesome. So where are you guys at sort of in the process? How long has TrueBit been around? Is the team pretty much solidified and just working, or like what stage are we at?
So we're still building, and we're set to have the first pilots actually launching here in just a few weeks. We've got an upscale gym that's actually going through a rebranding, and this fits very well with kind of the play on proof of work, working out and proof of work, obviously for the Bitcoin network. But we've got a high-end gym, we've got a coffee shop, we've got a legal firm. We've got a couple other kind of channel partners that we can't name here, but kind of big loyalty arms and payment processing services that were, and even brand agencies and ad agencies that again have brands coming to them saying, hey, we want to get involved. What do? We know we need to do something, and we're trying to position TrueBit as kind of a channel partner for those agencies and for these kind of tech partners that they can just say, "Hey, Brent, here, like use this." So it helps us with obviously sales, but it also helps us scale the sales efforts as well. I mean, the team is still growing. We've obviously want to bring in anybody that wants to help build on Bitcoin. We welcome all. We're hoping to finish our raise up here soon, but I think the core team is pretty set, but not saying we obviously we don't have every position filled. So we'll be looking forward to bringing more happy faces on soon enough.
Yeah, I was going to ask what kind of businesses are best suited for TrueBit, but it sounds like across the board, which is really exciting. You have a wide market opportunity. It sounds like we're trying to tackle.
Yeah, I think the diversity. I think the diversity is both is it goes both ways, right? Obviously we recognize as as a startup, you can't be everything to everyone. That is a recipe for not winning. And so really through this initial batch of pilots, we're kind of crafting each one such that we can track a number of different KPIs and really get some good learnings to say, okay, like, this proof of work concept of Bitcoin as a micro reward for, kind of working out at these upscale gyms, like that is a very, that appears to be a very repeatable thing that we could really scale and kind of hang our hat on as a real growth vertical, early on in our growth as a company. So I think coming out of these pilots, we're seeking to do probably a bit more focused and refinement on the couple that appear to be most repeatable. But yeah, our hypotheses currently are something like that. Something like retail has a lot of really good traits. You have this kind of frequency of visitation, for retail, and then ultimately something like airlines and hospitality. Although those loyalty systems are a lot more legacy and tend to have a lot more kind of baggage and can be a lot more difficult to sort of integrate with. So we're trying to stay pretty nimble, at least now, so we can kind of test all this out and get those learnings.
I was wondering if I was waiting for someone to sort of jump on top of that. Was there something you want to add to that, Stephen?
I mean, I would say that, the consumer side of things is, I think consumers are actually maybe a little bit ahead of a lot of brands when it comes to this. Most consumers have heard of, a lot of these things. So I don't think the educational piece is actually going to be like terribly hard for the brands. It's actually just making sure that the brands, as Ian said, there's like so many potential verticals and there's kind of just so many things out there in the space, quote unquote, that brands again are kind of just looking wide-eyed. Like, what do we do? So a lot of our job is just to kind of distill that down and be like, hey, do something that's simple, relevant, and can, very easily be associated and, relevant for your brand. Like, don't go out there and make a, virtual McDonald's or whatever in Decentraland when there's like, 1,000 people there and no one's doing anything. Like, do something as simple as like Bitcoin bag, because most people, know what Bitcoin is and probably want the chance to earn it. And we've had talks with other entities and trying to make that as easily as attainable as possible, like NIDIG and some of the others. And I think there's a lot of opportunity still in the space to make this as attractive to brands as possible before the likes of Starbucks. Again, it's unfortunate, but they're doing their efforts now on, I think it was Polygon, right, or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's also our job to try to kind of get ahead of some of this narrative and making sure that brands are building this kind of next phase of their loyalty and reward systems on what we would call the kind of gold standard, which is Bitcoin, versus some of these other chains and blockchains. Because I think another piece that's really interesting, it's going to keep coming up and probably more frequently there than it has in the past, but this whole just ESG narrative of Bitcoin bad, other chains good. And it's kind of our jobs to still tell these brands as whether they're as honest as maybe they are or not, or if they're just kind of simply virtue signaling. But hey, like, if you don't build this on Bitcoin, like, you're actually not really helping the environment like you think you are. The only thing actually being a net positive to the environment is building this and putting it on a Bitcoin standard. So there is a little bit of additional like educational pieces that might crop up, I think, but I think we're ready to take on those challenges and make the best out of it.
Yeah, so you've mentioned the consumer aspect of it, so let's pivot to sort of that side. Are you guys planning for folks who want to stack sats through TrueBit and stuff, having their own dashboard or phone app or something as well to sort of keep everything organized, or how do you envision that?
We are, and I'll say, yeah, Steri or Lyndon, if you want to take that one, we've definitely got some thoughts on that. We want to get there definitely sooner rather than later. We do not want to be custodying people's sats. I don't know, yeah, Steri or Lyndon, if you wanted to chime in on that.
I mean, I can throw some stuff in here, but I don't know how much we want to reveal. There is going to be a mobile app, so we are opting towards the non-custodial sort of way of things, but it's going to be a lot more than just your collectibles. I'll put it that way. There's a lot behind. Well, there's a whole lot behind what we're doing on the mobile app side and consumer payment tech outside of just having the collectibles and app on your phone.
Yeah, and getting TRUBIT's mission is, simply put, is something as getting brands on board, obviously, but getting consumers their first sats and ideally their first wallet. Just for the sake of kind of getting this pilot out the door, and the first one said, we are just custodying the sats. We're actually working with Voltage to do some of that, but we want to actually do this for the brands as well. We want to help the Lightning Network grow and have plans to. Every time a brand comes on boards with TRUBIT, they're automatically at least spinning up their own Lightning node, on Voltage, and eventually if we can get them to run their own node, great. But we do have plans to kind of make the not just simply like the shiny reward as kind of the overall mission, but actually expanding the Lightning Network and actually having the relationship between the brands and their consumers, as it relates to engagement and loyalty, actually utilizing the Lightning Network and helping it grow, versus just kind of the what I think the current phase is just, like we said, accepting payments is great, but that's kind of really all it's at this point. It's just accepting payments, and I don't think there's too many people that want to spend their Bitcoin quite yet.
And
but that'll probably change.
And just to be clear, like currently, I mean, I think others on the team outlined like some of what's to come, but I mean, currently, just to give a flavor of like what the consumer experience is today, it looks a lot similar to Fold, right? Like you've got your little, for those who have Fold, you've got your little balance that accrues in, the top right corner, and you can click into that and like withdraw it on, once you hit a certain threshold. Like that is the current kind of model, but as folks spoke to, hopefully we were able to move to a more fully non-custodial model with a lot of other really, really cool stuff that shall be revealed in due time.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff behind the scenes that we'll be building.
No, I mean just hearing that non-custodial is like a long-term goal or a goal at all is really what Bitcoin's all about, in my opinion. I guess I'm representing Voltage right now, but we're non-custodial also, as you know, so I think it's okay to say that. There's we've got a lot of friends in the industry like Zebedee and Fountain and stuff, and even though Zebedee doesn't use Voltage, but they use the LNURL, LN withdraw sort of setup, which is custodial, but it's kind of convenient at the same time. So there's a lot of different options you can go with that wallet setup for the end user.
Exactly. Yeah, and we just, again, kind of picking back at the, we want to win on user experience and kind of convenience, at least out of the gate, to get, some kind of critical mass and scale, and then, guide them, or at least, at some stage just be fully non-custodial. So that is the goal.
Cool. Yeah. So I mean, I want you guys just kind of riff, tell everyone like what else is really exciting and stuff. I'm kind of out of questions, but I have some other topics, sort of maybe. But I want to make sure we exhaust everything you guys wanted to get out there today.
I don't say, I don't know if you have anything. I mean, I could talk for hours. Everyone knows, but.
No, I think I think you've hit on a lot of it. I mean, maybe just from like a positioning point of view, because I do think maybe the average member in the Bitcoin community is probably aware of like a lot of different kind of Bitcoin reward things, and so maybe just to almost like self-classify ourselves, if that's helpful for just like mentally picturing where we sit within the landscape. So I often think of like a category similar to Fold, where it's connected to some sort of payment card, right? That's pretty clear. Then you've got some of the more kind of like affiliate type models. Lolly would be a great example of this, where you can go online and you have this little browser extension that basically detects when you're on a partner, merchant partner's kind of web page, notifying you of this potential deal. And it's basically an affiliate offer. And then we see like the next logical step to that progression being arming brands with an ongoing capability that extends their existing sort of loyalty efforts. So, we're attempting to be the ones, providing the shovel, so to speak, for brands to be able to add Bitcoin and Bitcoin secured digital assets to their repertoire of, loyalty rewards. So, just in case that's helpful, kind of framing of how and where we position ourselves in the, in the market, could be a useful note.
Yeah, I think that's right. Again, like kind of focusing back in on like keeping the brand again, and maybe from a different context, but yeah, just keeping the brand in control of their overall experience and kind of getting them, again, onboarded with least technical integrations as possible. But I think what we're probably more personally excited about is just still what's just to come. We've kind of got the feel for what, we do have the feel for what brands are kind of wanting and expecting, and trying to make the user experience in the platform just overall, very similar to what they do already with other platforms. But I think the exciting part is what's to come with like Taro and RGB and those possibilities. We know a lot of that is still kind of maybe a bit hypothetical, and some of the stuff is still in beta and code's going to come out. But we plan on being first movers with a lot of that. And once that comes out, we'll be full steam ahead. So we're eagerly awaiting and kind of pestering, if you will, to keep building on that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's really, really fun to sort of look at all of the developments happening, especially in the Lightning sort of ecosystem, and trying to find, markets and stuff. It's really exciting for startups and entrepreneurs and everything. Um, I really like what you said, like at the beginning. I'm still thinking about this idea where we have these Taro coins or RGB coins or something, and they're using Lightning. My Lightning node is routing payments, and there's Satoshis on my personal node, but they could be trading whatever Marriott points for Delta points, or some sort of
Exactly.
marketplace for that sort of thing. That actually
Yeah.
sounds really, really interesting, sort of in a long term possibility.
Yeah, and these like brands, like, I mean, again, these brands assets like do have value. Like you can get into the nitty gritty of that, but like putting them, like you said, and on Lightning, I think offers a lot of opportunities. I'm sure we're kind of tickling Ian and Asterius fancy on this, but
Well, we'll often, even in our like sales pitches to brands, we'll sometimes throw this kind of fluffy phrase out of like open loyalty. And it's this idea that, as a consumer, you've got all these little piles of points that you've accumulated in all these, various silos. And like, those points have certain rules to them. You can do certain things, but not others. And one of the really, long-standing pain points from the consumer standpoint around loyalty programs is, a lack of flexibility, a lack of relevancy, a lack of value. And so, yeah, I think, someone like Jack Mallers says it really well. Like, closed networks just over the long term cannot compete with open networks. And so we're starting, we've over the last decade even have started to see, inches of movement towards what we might call this more open loyalty concept, where you do have more interoperability between, brand A's points and, brand B's points. You have more possibilities in terms of exchanging value within that. And so I think, Nate, you nailed it. Like, think of those different tokens riding on Lightning rails, all settling in this universal unit of account that is Sats. Like, that makes a ton of sense, we believe, because you even have like marketplaces today that someone can come and kind of bring their, loyalty points, and for what is usually quite a steep fee, you can convert those points into into some other currency. And so imagine, a much, much more competitive market process for those different conversions that would result in something like Lightning. Obviously, the presence of additional assets can improve the economics of routing nodes. So there's, I think you hit on a very important point, and we think there's a lot of interesting potential. Now, that's also risky to some brands. They're like, well, I don't want to open my, my four walls and expose myself perhaps to more competition than I already am. But at the end of the day, this is going to be a consumer-driven movement, and brands are largely reactionary to that. So we're starting to see the beginnings of that, and I think it'll it'll continue to really ramp up in the coming years.
Yeah, I think it'd be really, really cool to have sort of an app and just be like, hey, I travel a lot, right? So I can now convert all these travel points I have either to sats, or maybe like I need a laptop or something, so I convert it to Best Buy or whatever. I think, or not convert, but I guess trade, whatever the market terminology is.
Yep.
But I think that's a really interesting thought. I hope that sort of comes to fruition. That sounds really cool to me. But on the sort of like the lower mom and pop side of things, what would incentivize like a mom and pop coffee shop to use TrueBit?
Yeah, so I think in our conversations with some of the smaller brands, they're like the hypotheses they want to prove out through kind of, right, they're going to naturally want to test this out and see. It usually revolves around two, business KPIs. Like number one, does this novel reward incentivize either additional transactions from my customers, right? Does it drive additional stickiness? Or to the extent that like we've got some brands that are going to do some social media marketing and some marketing in their existing channels, like to what degree does this actually attract new customers to the brand? Right. So like that's usually how these smaller businesses that may not have as they may not even have honestly a structured loyalty program at all. This is how they would typically put the business case together. And so how that's part and parcel of the pilot process. Like, we want to kind of identify those types of KPIs with each of these clients and track them. And so at the end of that, it should be unambiguous that, hey, great, like you got your average ticket size is $40. And you raise that to 45 by doing this particular campaign. Furthermore, you got a uplift in the number of new customers that you've never seen before. So like you can start to really quantify real hard business value to that. I think the other like really important dimension that we're admittedly continuing to think about is like what are the sort of complements to that from a marketing standpoint that could be useful. What I mean by that is, given where the level of adoption is currently, it might be the case that like 10% of my customers know about Bitcoin, like would indeed value this, et cetera. And the notion of being able to attract, those individuals who may not currently be my customers, while that's really interesting, like how do I reach those individuals? And so going back to something that Steven said earlier, we're having a lot of conversations with like local, ad agencies or marketing agencies that can, partner with us to say, now we can go to a brand and say like, hey, we are going to provide this technology that enables you to deliver this, really novel reward. And, what comes with that is this little marketing wrapper that's going to allow you to tap into this really, as we know, like totally rabid, community of people who will literally switch behavior. And like, we did a poll on Twitter recently and, we posed the question like, brand A is offering Bitcoin. Like, would you switch from brand B to brand A? And not surprisingly, over 90% of people are like, absolutely, I would drop brand B in a second. So, like there can be marketing wrappers that go around that help, really maximize the bang for the buck that these smaller brands can get at this currently still early, as we know, level of adoption. But as that number goes up, it becomes more and more, the business case becomes more and more obvious for brands over time.
Yeah, and like we're actually working with, and talking still with several mom and pop, and just kind of given the broader macro environment, obviously it's every other day. It seems like it's the end of the world, but they're dealing with a lot. Labor shortages, supply chain issues. Like these small mom and pops are, one looking for any break they can get, but I think they also acknowledge that they need some differentiation to kind of speak to everything that Ian just spoke to, but also they know that the kind of this customer segment, or maybe they don't, it's kind of our job, but this consumer segment tends to skew younger, but also higher income. And if they want to be able to keep a customer base that is able to purchase their actual products, with rising costs and, just kind of more and more strain and friction between them and the end customer, they're going to need to have some type of solution to that. And, while Bitcoin's probably not the only answer, I think it's a critical one for, kind of a global debt crisis that's kind of unfolding before us. So I think that might become more apparent as things continue to kind of unfold. But it's kind of something that I think we could do a better job of. Say, hey guys, look at this asset, standing the test of time. Zoom out a bit. It's obviously appreciating in value, and typically the people that own this are, again, pretty savvy, involved in loyalty programs, skew higher income. These are the kind of customers that you want to attract if you want to have your business be around, for another decade.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it might, I mean, it probably is a lot easier to sort of cold orange pill a business into just giving Bitcoin as a loyalty thing instead of accepting it outright, even though that's sort of what a lot of Bitcoiners go for when they're, every time I go to like a mom and pop sort of coffee shop and I see them using Toast or Clover and I know that they're getting charged like 50 cents plus 3% or whatever it is on a $4 cup of coffee, it like hurts my soul. Like,
Yeah.
I know those margins are already super thin and stuff.
So we
So
hate it because they want us to integrate with it, and integrating with them is a pain in the butt.
yeah, that too, right? When I talk about Bitcoin, it's like, okay, yeah, sure, like put it in the system. It's like, nah, it's getting easier with things like IBEX and OpenNode and stuff, but
Yeah.
but as far as going that loyalty route, that might be like the foot in the door that we've been missing. Instead of going from this like 0 to 100, it's a little bit of a softer onboarding onto Bitcoin for a lot of these businesses that haven't even thought about it.
Yeah, exactly. I almost think there's an analogy to how we, at times observe that like folks in the Western world tend to, have like different behavior as it relates to Bitcoin versus the arguably much more kind of colorful peer-to-peer activity that we see in places like Africa and places like Southeast Asia, et cetera. You see all these like dynamic communities springing up. Like that's awesome. And, we believe that that is inevitable to see, more and more of that even in the Western world. But I think the same sort of dynamic is at play. Like, all fiats are melting ice cubes, but some are melting faster than others. And so like the ones that are melting slower than others, you tend to have. I think that message of using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange is just it's something that takes a little bit more time in those markets, and so for the same reason as we see that dynamic I just described, I think that's been our observation is that for brands kind of in this part of the world where we're based, the notion of extending their loyalty program with this additional reward type tends to be a little bit of a, as you said, easier stepping stone.
Kyle, you requested to come up. What's up, man?
Yo, love this conversation. Excited about what you guys are building, especially so that I can, shill it to all my my places that I shop. One thing, I don't know if I caught it or missed it, but have you guys seen much interest, or do you use this as a selling point that by offering rewards, you could have like local Bitcoiners essentially bootstrapping these businesses, and then they'll see a spike, hopefully in purchases or visitors, and then that's like kind of that beachhead to the ultimate kind of orange pilling of the business owner, and kind of get them on board with what we're doing here.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, I think there's more of that we can be doing. I mean, it's funny, like we're based in Central Virginia, which is not exactly known as a Bitcoin metropolis, like maybe Austin, Texas would be, but you'd still be surprised. Like we recently discovered that lo and behold, there's a local Bitcoiner group. We're going to be meeting with them next next Thursday for a meetup. And that exact idea you just painted, I think, is something we definitely want to, approach with them. And, you could tie all sorts of interesting referral mechanics to that. Cause you're right. Like, and that is a selling point. Like, we talk about just how motivated, Bitcoiners are, not even just to stack more sats, but to like see this become more of a reality, is such a powerful force. So the short answer is you're spot on. And, we definitely have, some work to do to further capitalize on that. But, I think there's also, Steve, keep me honest, I think there's there's an app called like Oshi that I think is doing a sort of similar strategy in Austin. So 100%. And for, other entrepreneurs that may listen to this recording or who are on the call currently, like, never underestimate your local market. That has been a huge learning for us. And of course, never underestimate Bitcoiners.
Yeah, we have found some very hardcore Bitcoiners and Lightning devs right here in our backyard that we never would have known of. So it's kind of crazy. They're right here. But even like, Bitcoin meetups are big, but even just acknowledging that there's a lot of crypto ones and blockchain ones, and if we can kind of just show that, hey, these brands are seeing these kind of groups come to them and host events or do things at their locations. That's just, again, another selling point for them. Like, hey, this is growing. Hey, this is not a fad. It's not going away. You should probably start doing something to kind of cater to these, this consumer segment that's growing and you're now actively engaging with. So yeah, we plan to do more of that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that has me most excited about what you guys are offering is, giving the community something to use to expand, right? Like, by landing a business, you've provided a beacon for, the community of Bitcoiners to support them. And now that business is like, okay, I see there's an asset and the rewards are a thing. It's getting some interest. Oh, I guess there's a network where I can actually transact on. And then, layer 3, if you will, right? The community of people and how it's expanding or how they're like what kind of people it's bringing into the business. I think you get like a lot of compounding effects there. So yeah, just super excited for it.
And it's kind of funny too, just like one quick note on that. We've kind of like seen a little bit and kind of didn't mean to discover it, but we talking with brands was even just not even from the consumer perspective, but employees, like benefits to the employees themselves, for, small mom and pop, mid-size, bigger, but that's actually a pretty attractive kind of offer for brands to attract employees and reward them. I'm sure many people are aware of, internal rewards programs for doing certain things or hitting certain milestones, stuff like that. But it is kind of something we've more recently heard and seen from things as far as just employee benefits, health benefits, things like that. So kind of something we're keeping a tabs on.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to keep tabs on you guys and see how this develops. Where can we learn more or contact you guys for like a demo if we need to?
You can always DM us on Twitter. We've got a Discord as well. All our emails are on the website as well. It's trubit.tech. Yeah, we try to stay pretty active on Twitter when we're not building or in meetings pitching. But those are probably the main three: is Twitter, Discord, and yeah, you can always email us something.
Cool. Yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it up here in a sec, but I'll open it up to final thoughts, or if anyone has a question that's out there to raise their hand right now. But let's just do final thoughts real quick.
I would be remiss to not add that we, number one, appreciate the opportunity to chat in this forum and appreciate the partnership with Voltage. If there's any other entrepreneurs listening to this, like, trust me, we've each of us on stage here have mucked around with our own personal, lightning nodes, and it's, while that's been a blast, sometimes that's not exactly the, kind of enterprise grade infrastructure that you need to deliver on what we're trying to deliver, of bringing that several $100 billion, a year loyalty economy onto a Bitcoin standard. You're probably not going to do that on my Crypto Cloaks Rager Major customized, little Raspberry Pi that's sitting in my room right now. So would encourage folks to check out Voltage as well. And it's been awesome as we're getting this off the ground, and I think we will have a lot more to come. But yeah, I would just say thanks to everyone, and if you're interested in any way, DM us, and we're always happy to chat, share more.
Yeah, I would echo that. It's been a blast already working with you all, and got a lot more to look forward to.
All right, likewise, guys. I really appreciate it, and thank you for telling us about what you're building. And for those that missed it, TRUBIT, TRUBIT.tech, TECH, right? So check out these guys. Keep an eye on them. I think they're building something really, really cool that is going to be a game changer going forward. So that's all I got. If you haven't yet, Voltage is at voltage.cloud. No KYC. Sign up. You get $10 of free credit. So play around, make a BTC pay, hang out with us. And we'll see you guys on Twitter Spaces next week, every Wednesday. See ya.
Cheers, guys.